problem. All right. Okay. In case there's someone here, I'm live right now. I don't know why I always have this issue. Is this even, yeah, it should work. Yes. So okay. Can anyone hear me? I don't know why. Okay. Let's see. Okay. For some reason, okay. Okay, there are two viewers right now. Okay, is this working? Control sharing. Connection secure. Okay. Okay. Say, okay, so, okay, great. So Zane is here. Can you hear me? Oh, okay, great. I wasn't sure if the microphone was working. Uh, okay. Let's see if anyone else shows up. Okay. Okay. Oh. Ah, yes, Aziz, of course, the culture shock guy. Okay, great. You can hear me too? That's always the case. There are always some people who aren't even enrolled in the class or former students or even friends of mine who like watching these. Oftentimes, students are more interested in the live streams than they are in class for some reason. Okay, so I'm glad it's working now. I think the issue with scheduled streams is that, yeah, good luck with that because it looks backwards to you. One of them is just a reminder for my live streams, and the rest of it I don't really remember. If it's distracting, I can try to hide it. Okay, so we have 7 people so far. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for some reason the scheduled streams don't often work, and I think the reason is when I say 6:30 p.m., it uses Greenwich Mean Time for some weird reason. I don't know why, but it's happened before, but I always forget about that. Okay, Killer XXQ8. Okay. Wow. Okay. So, thank you, Aziz. Yeah, every time I've done these, I haven't done too many, but they're usually pretty fun and really successful. One thing I notice is students who don't talk in class ever end up asking the most questions. And one thing I really like is It's you can do it this from anywhere. I mean, as long as you have an internet connection, you could do it on your phone. Yeah, I could do it on my phone too. I did that once. I don't remember why. I think I was on my way somewhere or I was busy running some errands and I did this on my phone once, but usually I'd rather just sit down and do them. Okay, so we have 7 people so far. It's fewer than I expected, but that's okay. Um, who wants to get the ball rolling? Yeah, Zane, that's my guess exactly. And actually, the questions they ask are pretty good, but whatever the reason is, I suspect you're right. They students who never talk and students who sometimes don't even show up that much end up asking the most questions and pretty good ones too. All right, so does anyone want to get the ball rolling? Let me just see if anyone's still on my on the old link. MT minus 8. Yeah. Okay, signposting. Okay, great. That's a good question, and that's the kind of question I might ask you on tomorrow's quiz. What is signposting? Yeah, what is signposting? And give me an example. So signposting is very simply when you like as a just like a road sign tells you, you know, you want to go to Route 5 or Fifth Ring Road, turn right here, or start going 60 kilometers an hour. The oh geez, what do you call it? The speed limit changes, or turn left here. No, do not enter. You're telling the audience what you're doing. So for the one example is I'm done with my first point. Now I'm going to move on to my second point. So there are transitions that tell the audience where you are in your speech. So you can say, okay, I'm done with my first point. I'm going on to the second point. Now I'm finished with this point, or I'm done with the causes of this problem. Now I'm going to talk about the solutions. So when you're signposting, you don't do that much. It's maybe one sentence at the very most, but really effective because it reminds the audience where you are in your speech. Okay, so just a simple definition is signposting is when you tell your reader or your audience what you're doing or where you are in your speech or where you're going in your speech, something like that. And a simple example is, I'm done with my first point, I'm moving on to my next point, something like that. Okay, so that's one example of a question I might ask. By the way, there's not a lot of content, as you probably can guess. This course is not a content-based course. Okay, great. So Zane got it. It's not a content-based course. In most of your classes here, you probably memorize a bunch of stuff and you have to repeat that information. This class is a skills-based course. You learn how to do something, you learn a skill and you practice it. So there's not much to remember. There are some principles and a few definitions, but not that much. And everything I will ask you is stuff we've talked about at length during class time, often more than once. And it's all on Moodle as well. So if you missed a video we watched, it's on Moodle with some of my notes. If you missed our discussion of signposting, that's on the slides I have as well. So everything was in class and is on Moodle. Okay, Aziz, so it's pretty much the direction we're headed in our speech presentation. Yeah, pretty much, except you're being a bit more specific. So I'm going on to my next point. I'm finished talking about the causes of this problem. Now I'm going to talk about the solutions. Or as Steve Jobs would do, the third thing I wanted to talk to you about was this. That's a very simple example as well. So it's nothing complicated, and it's something most people forget, even professionals forget, but it's really useful. Okay, so any other questions? Is there anything we should memorize from the Clinton Bush video? Yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea. What are the highlights that we talked about? So maybe what is one important thing we learned after watching that video? So what we talked about was I mean, we had some fun with it, but we talked about what did Bill Clinton do that Bush didn't? What was Bush's mistake? What was Clinton's what was the thing Clinton did well? And what we talked about was he seemed more confident, of course, but also he connected with the audience member. That he walked right up to the woman who asked the question. He tried to relate to her, but in a word, he showed more credibility. Right. One thing that people still talk about is that Bush seemed out of touch with the public. People thought he didn't understand them and their problems, so he wasn't really credible, right? They didn't believe him when he spoke, but when Bill Clinton spoke, people believed him, and so he showed ethos, he showed credibility. So that's one thing you should keep in mind. Okay, so Zayn, yeah, so he was there, yeah. So in other words, he tried to, however you want to describe it. Yeah, Bush was more general, more artificial. He didn't come across as believable. Clinton seemed more credible because A, he was more confident, and B, he seemed to connect with the woman who asked the question. He was very good at doing that. Are you going to ask something like, what are the do's and don'ts when speaking in public? This is Aziz's question. Yeah, I might not ask you, okay, give me a comprehensive list of do's and don'ts, but maybe what are two do's and what are two specific don'ts? Or I might even just give you a couple of examples of don'ts and do's and ask you what's wrong with doing this or what's wrong with doing that or why shouldn't we do this? Something like that. But I'm not going to ask you, give me a full list of do's and don'ts. Lou Jane asks questions about other videos too. Maybe. I mean, we did watch some videos, and again, I'm not going to ask you give me a full list of everything Steve Jobs does well, for instance, or something like that. But it's not a bad idea to just remember one takeaway, one highlight from each video, something like that. So we watched Steve Jobs a lot, and we've talked about him at length. So if you can just remember what is one thing Jobs does do, or one thing he doesn't do, that is effective, something like that. Likewise, with what's another video we watched? Uh, the smoking man. I probably won't ask you about this guy because we watched the video a long time ago. What is one thing he does wrong? That nervous smoking guy. What is one mistake he makes? Yeah, the nervous smoking man. So I probably won't ask you about him because it was a long time ago, and we only talked about him one time. But just if you can, there aren't many videos. I think there are maybe four of them I posted on Moodle, and if you didn't watch one, they're all there. You don't have to watch the whole thing, but I also have some highlights and some notes about each one. So if you were not in class, just take a few minutes to watch each video and maybe see what the speakers do well and don't do well. Any structure questions? Yeah, I mean, I might ask you what is an example of structure? Like, how can you, what is a good way to organize a speech? Something like that. A speech that doesn't have structure. It says my connection is unstable. Please wait while we reconnect. Okay, so okay. I'm not sure if I got cut off. Did you hear my answer, Zane, and the rest? Okay, great. Okay. Okay, I don't think anyone's here. Okay, good. Okay, missed it. Okay. So the structure, yeah. So just I'm not going to ask you like everything about it, but I might just ask you a simple question like what is structure? Why is it so important? Can you give me an example of how you might organize a speech or something like that? Something basic. I might just ask you that. So yes, you should know what structure is. Structure is very important, as you know. That's something we've talked about a lot. But just a very simple question like what is structure and how might you organize a speech? We've talked about different ways you can organize a speech. Yeah, the structure slide will do it. Yeah, exactly. Are we required to remember the name of the talkers we saw in the video? No, you don't have to, although you should probably remember at least, for example, the Bush Clinton one we watched. It's only about 4 minutes. We spent almost an entire class talking about that. I might ask you about another video, but if you're wondering, am I going to ask you about the 4 or 5 Democratic candidates we watched? No, I'm not going to ask you that. But I might ask you to use one of the videos as an example of something. So, for example, what is something Clinton does well? What is something that what name one speaker who demonstrates credibility and how does he or she do it? So someone we watched. So probably more like that. I'm not going to ask you to, summarize the videos we watched or anything like that. I might ask you to use one of the speakers or one of the videos as an example to an answer you have. Now we're up to 9 viewers. Okay, that's more like it. Let's see if we can get double digits. Let's see if there are any other questions forthcoming. Okay, Zane, you're welcome. Do you guys find this useful so far? Like I said, there's not much content. This is not a content-based course. I've never done a live stream for this class, in fact. But I thought some students were nervous, and I thought this might help. Okay. Okay, Aziz, yeah, I think so too. So I was a little surprised that there was such demand for a live stream, but here you have it. How many questions? Okay, that's a good question. I haven't finalized the number of questions, but what I'll probably do is I'll give you something like 12 questions, short answer, and I'll ask you to answer 10 of them or something like that. I suspect most of you will be done pretty quickly, especially, those of you who've been there every class, and as you know, we've gone over some of this stuff multiple times. So something like 10 questions, but no more than 12. So if you haven't done so already, especially for those who missed a few classes, it's not a bad idea to just quickly review the slides. There are maybe 2 sets of slides. There aren't that many. And watch at least a few minutes of the videos I posted. Most of the videos are short anyway, but if there's a long video, maybe just watch 5 minutes or the section I tell you to watch. And I've also posted some discussion notes and other points. If you really, really want to, if you're not sure you've grasped everything. But this is all stuff we've talked about at length in class. Okay, I'm down to 5 viewers, 6 viewers. Okay, 7 viewers. Okay, Zane, all right. Thank you for the confirmation. Okay, I'll stick around for another minute or so, maybe another 90 seconds. We've been here for 20 minutes already. The time goes by pretty quickly. I've done these sometimes and they've gone on for over an hour, but that's in classes where we have a lot of content to cover, like a fourth year class with a lot of challenging readings. But as I said, in this class, this is more of a skill-based class. You learn how to do something. You don't really memorize a bunch of stuff, which is what you do in most of the other classes. So that's why I really wouldn't worry as long as you've been generally attending class and paying attention. And even if you haven't, you can have a quick look at the stuff on Moodle. Oh, you're welcome, Aziz. Yeah, thanks. I actually kind of have fun doing these, believe it or not. So you're welcome, and I'm glad you found it useful. Okay, any other final thoughts or questions? Maybe another minute or so. I'll wait until 23 minutes. It's now 21 minutes and 40 seconds, so I'll wait another minute and a half. And if there's no other questions, then I will see you guys tomorrow. In case I didn't mention it, please come on time. I suspect most of you will be done quickly, but please come on time. Bring something to write with. I know it's the year 2019, but we still use pen and paper, so bring something to write with. Come on time. And I honestly think most of you don't really have to worry about how much percent. I haven't really decided because there's one assignment we're not going to do. We don't have time, but probably 10%, something like that. It won't be worth more than 10% of the grade. So, like I said, it's more of a quiz, and I really wouldn't worry about it that much. Yes, Wednesday is optional conferences. We will begin the persuasive speeches next Monday, November 18th. And so if you want to come and talk to me about your persuasive speech, your topic, anything like that, well, you can come during class time on Wednesday. I'll be in my office. If you don't want to come and talk to me, that's fine. And please double check the schedule for persuasive speeches. I put it on Moodle. Double check your date, and sooner rather than later, get me your topics. I've had a couple of students already send me their topics, along with a thesis statement, a possible thesis statement. So yeah, so please do that after Monday. And yes, Wednesday, if you want to come talk to me during class time, you can. Okay, it's 23 minutes and 30 seconds almost. I'll wait another 30 seconds. And if I see no other questions, I will call it a night and see you guys tomorrow. In case you're interested, I am doing another one of these tomorrow evening at about 6:30 for my English 300 class, which is History of the English Language. I suspect that'll be a longer one, more substantial one. There's a lot of content to cover. So if you're bored or if you really like YouTube live streams or you want to see what a live stream for one of my other classes looks like, you're welcome to come back tomorrow at the same time. And as always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, all that stuff. You know the drill by now. Okay, it's 24 minutes. Just hit that like button. Okay, thank you. I don't get anything from this, by the way. My videos aren't monetized or anything like that, but I just enjoy saying that since everyone else seems to. Okay, guys, so that's a wrap. I will see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place. Please bring something to write with. And like I said, don't worry about it too much. Okay, have a good night, guys.